What is up, basketball fans? Welcome to the NBA Outlet. I'm your host, Nick Fay. With me, as always, Kory Waldron, and two guests today. We got Jack Manuell and Nick Cuvalo. Fellas, how we doing?
Oh, very well. Always excited to be talking hoops with you, Nick.
Full House, and this is a better version of the remake of Full House on Netflix. This is actually going to be fun, funny, and entertaining.
Hot take. Always a pleasure. Glad to have all four of you guys on. It's been a while with Nick and then Jack. I'm glad you're here, I guess. And Nick.
Kory, there's only three of us, four including yourself. Are you saying that there's
I decided I'm talking to third person this entire show. You know.
All right, keep it up the whole show. This is an international pod. Obviously, Kory and I in the United States, Jack in Australia, Nick in Canada. So we're providing you with different takes. As always, though, you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, OTGBasketball.com, and YouTube. And like we've been mentioned, make sure you go to Design Tree/Off the Glass. Grab yourself an OTG hoodie with discount code OTG5. But guys, let's get right into it with studs and duds. Nick, hit me with your stud of the week.
My stud of the week is none other than Miami Heat's very own Bam Adebayo. And so the guy's put up some crazy numbers. He had a triple-double last week, 17 points, 16 rebounds, 10 assists. Like, the guy is capable of high-post playmaking. This season, he's really been coming out into his own, and the guy just has been a star performer, especially this past week. I think he's only going to get more consistent over time, so watch out. Like, you better start tuning into some Miami Heat games if you've been avoiding them this season.
All star for you guys?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I think Bam
easily.
And like defensively, he's been a monster. He's allowed them to just so many different things. And like Nick's mentioned, that high post area. And this was also my second pick in the NBA Twitter redraft. Just a quick plug for myself. But Jack,
I've got the Chicago Bulls defense. Yes, that is right. The Chicago Bulls defense this past week has had a defensive rating of 97.4. They've been playing trash basketball, but they're playing good defense. So maybe that's why Jim Boylan still has a job for some reason.
I just want to say one of those games was against the Hornets, so keep that what you will.
Keeping them to 73 points is a solid outing. They can, we struggled against Devontae Graham, so, they're doing something, right?
That
might be the one thing Jim Boylan has going for him at the current moment, if I'm a Bulls fan. That's the only thing that's tethering him to his job for me.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fair. So for me, my stud of the week was James Harden. Obviously, 55 points against Cleveland, 54 points against Orlando. And then on a back-to-back, even though they lost last night, he still had 39 points again.
And this is his third time as stud of the week, I believe, on the NBA Outlet. I went with another young big. Jaren Jackson had a big week, averaged 24 points a game, 57% from the field, 45% from three. I'm making 4 threes a game. And the Grizzlies were 3-1 this week.
A good week.
Playing good.
John Morant's back and healthy.
Yeah, I mean, they're set up pretty well with Jaren Jackson and John Morant moving forward. But on the negative side, dud of the week, Nick, who we rolling with?
Oh, for me, it's got to be Mike Conley. And this is just kind of a repeat of what's been a disappointing season for the guy. His most recent game, he had a 20-point outing, but previously he had outings of 6, 5, and 8-point total games, which is just like, come on, man. Like, single digits in that many for that string of games is just, this guy was an all-star level guard before, right? Despite having never actually played in the all-star game, this guy was good for 20 points a game, 10 dimes, and he seemed like he'd have a lot more of an impact on this Utah Jazz squad. And he just has not been living up to that expectation for me so far, and especially not this past week.
Yeah, they've been a severe disappointment. My dud of the week is Kory Waldron on the NBA Outlet and full access. I'll go with an actual player, and my actual player is the Denver Nuggets guard Jamal Murray. And Nick and I got to recap his game, and that was probably his best game of the week. And it did start at the start of last week where he had 21 points, but he followed it up with he was injured, and then he had 10, 12 point performances, averaged 11.8 points on the week. 38.6% from the field, 33% from three. He hasn't taken the jump that I think that has been required for the Denver Nuggets to be a really quality number one outfit, despite their win-loss record. And I know Nick put out there, can the Denver Nuggets on his Twitter account, @OTG_Nick, can the Denver Nuggets be a championship contender with Nikola Jokic as their best player? And I responded that they can't with Jamal Murray as their second best player, and I stand by that.
So my dud of the week is Kyrie Irving's shoulder. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah.
I had his
Hey, Kory, I didn't take any shots at you. Jack did. Talk about Australia or something.
I had his collateral damage. My dud of the week was Jason Tatum. Now, granted, I know he did start off the week with a 19.11 rebound game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. We know they suck. Then when they played against the Pacers and the 76ers, two better squads, shot 30% against the Pacers, 27% from the field against the Sixers for 16 points, 15 points in each game. Just didn't have it locked in. Had some really poor IQ shots, at least in the Pacers game in particular. And actually, I watched the Philly game too when I was on OTG Twitter that night. But just his shot IQ wasn't very good this week. Kind of struggled. Now the Celtics do have a nice break until Christmas Day. But they struggled heavily these last two games for the week.
Yeah, Jason Tatum's been kind of frustrating for the Celtics in general. I mean, Jaylen Brown's definitely played better than him this season. So moving forward, it's going to be something to keep an eye on because Tatum obviously shows the flashes and his game looks so smooth, but he's got to eventually put it together. I went with Bradley Beal. Obviously, he's on the Wizards, and they're not great. 0-3 this week.
Hey, I'm going to relay this information to my other Nick, and he might have to unsubscribe to the NBA Outlet on iTunes. Don't be besmirching those Wizards. They have lots of Wizards woes. Checking out JBT on iTunes as well.
I think they'd be happy with a good draft pick, but 31% from the field, 24% from three, just not numbers from an all-star level guard.
Hey, Davis Bertans has stepped up. That's all they've needed, mate. Don't worry about Bradley Beal. Davis Bertans is the new #1 guy in Washington.
I thought about putting him as my stud just for fun.
Very sensitive to Wizards and Nets criticism here on this pod. Very sensitive.
I got to stand for my fellow Aussie. If he can't defend himself, I got to defend him for him.
Now, talking about somebody Kory already mentioned earlier in the show, and that's James Harden. Obviously having a monster season. Probably one of the most hated players in the NBA, though. 39 points a game, over 5 rebounds a game, almost 8 assists a game, 44% from the field, 36% from three, and he's just been on a tear this week, dropping 50-point games left and right. Do you guys feel James Harden is underappreciated?
Yes, but almost deservedly so, and I'm just going to expand on that really quick. He's putting up numbers right now that if you compare these to all NBA MVP seasons, yes, these numbers should guarantee you an MVP victory 99 times out of 100. So that is out of the question. He is definitely performing at an MVP level. Now, the reason he is not awarded the MVP award automatically over Giannis and the rest has to do, of course, with the narrative, right? And we're all familiar with the narrative discussion, how much that factors into MVP voting. And I just think James Harden has built up so much of a negative narrative for himself that works against his MVP voting over the course of his career that I don't think he can do enough in the scoring department to maybe turn around people's perceptions of him. And with that, I'm going to let Jack expand. What's your thinking here, Jack?
I don't think he's underappreciated, but I think he's overly criticized. So I think he does get the credit and the praise and the plaudits that he does deserve. But there is also an element of Rockets Twitter and NBA Twitter that stands so hard for James Harden that it creates a more negative narrative surrounding him, and it pushes the other side of the James Harden negative fans to the other side. There's no real equilibrium when it comes to James Harden. It's not like everyone loves him like Luka Doncic or Stephen Curry back in the 2015-16 Golden State Warriors. He is a divisive player. But if you are an NBA fan in any sense of the imagination, if you cannot respect what he does at historic levels, and I spoke about it on JBT yesterday with the other Nick, the Aussie Nick, and we said that he is doing historic things, and it is probably going under the wayside a little bit because of what Nick was saying, that he does it in a way that isn't necessarily aesthetically pleasing to a lot of people. But then again, his 50-point performances more lately have been through sheer will and production without getting to the free throw line as much. So I don't think he's underappreciated, but I think there is a segment of fans, NBA fans and non-Rockets fans out there that do criticize him a little bit too much, and that might create an element of underappreciation.
I would say I think what you said, Jack, about him being kind of overly criticized is spot on. So I have a lot of numbers here. I don't know why I got numbers for this show. So first off, usage rate. James Harden, 38.7. Antetokounmpo, 38.2. So we're talking about a 0.5 difference in usage rate, yet for some reason James Harden usage rate gets criticized way more than we ever criticized Antetokounmpo. And we would even say a different, segment, we talked about this last week, the Bucks and Antetokounmpo are kind of underrated because no one talks about them. And then also Luka Doncic is 37.1 usage rate. So again, three guys have all the same basic usage rate, and the only guy we see criticized on a weekly basis for the shots he takes and the amount of shots and the way he plays is James Harden. And I'm not even saying I'm not one of those people, because I probably am in the category that's overcritical at times, because watching the way he plays, it is a majority of 3-point shots and getting to the free throw line. That is James Harden's game. It can make the game very choppy. But also, in the first 25 games this season, James Harden has had the best start of any player in NBA history for points scored through 25 games. He beat Jordan's record earlier this week. Not to mention that, he also has the most three-pointers made through 25 games, passing Stephen Curry's record that he set like 3 years ago. So what James Harden has done through 26 games, 25 games, we've never seen before. And the usage rate really isn't that outrageous compared to the couple of the other stars who are in the MVP conversation themselves. So I think, yeah, he's over-criticized because right now, no matter where you put him, he's a top 3 player in the NBA and arguably the best isolation player, because I don't think anyone can really score from 3 like he does. I mean, that step back is ridiculously lethal. Obviously, there were some shooting woes when the season started, but obviously this last month or so, he's completely clocked into being James Harden.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers are there, and his team wins games. I think you guys nailed it on the head that you said he's overly criticized. I think he does get some appreciation, but if he were to have more success in the postseason, I think you would see it probably double. I think that's the biggest knock on him is his lack of postseason success, and then obviously the dependence on free throws. And then when the step back 3 isn't falling, it is an ugly thing to watch. But do you guys think that there's anything that James Harden can do this season that will help change his narrative long term, or it's all about the postseason?
Yeah, it's pretty much all about the postseason. And I mean, yeah, you guys are going to agree with me on this one. And that's because the Rockets are still missing a ring, right? There's no ring in the James Harden era. And so for him to really solidify himself as a legend and perhaps get the respect that he deserves from the fan bases all around the NBA, he needs that ring. He needs that postseason success, and he needs to make it more obvious that his transcendent scoring plays into team-wide success more so than anything else, right? Because that's just what we haven't seen from Harden yet. Him being able to take it all the way through the playoffs. Maybe he was one CP3 hamstring, a functional CP3 hamstring away, but nonetheless, he hasn't done it yet. So.
Yeah, obviously it's the postseason issue, but I would also say if he were to average 40 points per game in the regular season, that would be, obviously historic and possibly add to a narrative. Obviously 40 and 39, 39 and a half, 39.3, it's all relative. But I think that would also add to the illustrious nature to put on his resume, to his growing list of resume. One thing I will also say is I didn't know Kory Waldron did that much homework for an NBA podcast. I respect it. I respect the hustle.
That's like a low-key shade shot.
It is. It's a complicit. I call it a complicit. It's a compliment.
I'm not gonna lie. When it comes to prep wise, this was one of my better prep shows of the last couple weeks. I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
And I think you guys nailed it with Jack with the 40-point. If he were to average 40 points a game, and then his efficiency this season isn't terrible, like 44% from the field and 36% from 3. With those numbers, his turnovers have still been high the last couple seasons. Obviously, you'd probably like the assist stuff, but it's impressive stuff. We're going to figure out more about James Harden as it kind of progresses, gets to the postseason. But talking about the NBA as a whole, I thought an interesting question for you guys on the show would be, what's the best division in the NBA?
Okay, so for me, it's the Atlantic Division, and I think it's been this way for me for a long time, covering Raptors for as long as I have been, and then you guys being so Nets focused, and this honestly, the Atlantic teams are the teams that I'm probably most familiar with still, and then you take a quick look at the standings, and you see that they've got 4 teams that, should the seasons finish today, are going to wind up in the playoffs, right? And there's no other division in the NBA right now that can say the same thing. So for me, it's the Atlantic.
Before today's games, I did research. I did my Kory Waldron style. I started to look into some numbers. I literally went through each division and added up all of their wins in total. And this is before today's game, so the Nets game and the Sixers game. In total, it backs up what Nick was saying. The Atlantic Division has 73 wins in total. The Pacific Division is closely followed by the Lakers, the Clippers, the Sacramento Kings. I mean, you discount the Golden State Warriors, but they're close behind with 70 wins. So those, for me, are the top 2 divisions in the NBA right now.
Yeah, I went the same route Jack went, as I looked at both conferences for divisions. And I think, obviously, the Pacific Division, I probably would say Pacific Division. I'll be different. I think there's more top-heavy talent right now in the Pacific Division because, obviously, Durant's not healthy and Kyrie's not healthy. And, obviously, we've seen the Lakers and the role they've been on. The Clippers have been healthy. Obviously, They're still trying to figure things out because they don't look as complete as they may have looked going into the year. And then the Kings have played better basketball as of late. Not great, still missing De'Aaron Fox due to injury, but Buddy Hield's been good. Marvin Bagley just got back. The Suns have kind of teetered off, but they had the strong start. So I think for me, I'd say Pacific, but I think you guys are right in the fact of Atlantic Division does have 4 teams that would be a playoff. Would all be in the playoffs right now if the season ended.
Yeah, I'm obviously rolling Atlantic here. Jack and Nick nailed it. Not only in the wins in terms of the playoffs, but I think you look at the Atlantic. Philly could come out of the East. Boston could potentially come out of the East. Toronto's probably one move from coming out of the East, and the Nets are probably one KD return from coming out of the East. So I think there's 4 really good teams possibly in the East. Obviously, the Nets being the worst one depending on health. And then when you get to the Pacific, which would be the runner-up, you do have the Clippers and the Lakers, but then you get down that division. I think we're starting to really see who Phoenix is. I think Sacramento's just kind of a mediocre team, and then obviously Golden State's just as bad as the Knicks. So I think the Atlantic is the best, and there's going to be a lot of quality playing between those teams. But what's the worst division in the NBA?
Yeah, so for me that's the Southeast, and that's just like I am not a big believer in the Magic. I don't think that's a team that should like necessarily finish in a playoff spot in the East. I'm really big around the Magic blowing up their roster, actually, almost in like a weird way. But also the Magic, the Hornets, the Wizards, and the Hawks are all in the same division there. And besides the Miami Heat, who have been pretty spectacular, still lacking a little bit more top end talent on that team. But the rest of the division there is just mind-bogglingly bad. So that's my take.
Yeah, the numbers back it up for that one as well. Next, Southeast Division, 56 total wins. But I'm going to go Southwest just to be different. They have 59 total wins. And despite the Dallas Mavericks and Houston Rockets doing some nice things, the Spurs have been pretty horrible. Memphis have been feisty, but haven't really shown enough wins for it. And the New Orleans Pelicans, especially with a lot of injuries and Zion not really being able to get out on the court at all, they've struggled. So they've only had 59 wins. So another 3-win margin for them. So the best in the best of the worst are the 2 southern teams, divisions, teams, divisions, whatever you want to say. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think this is a toss-up between the Southeast and Southwest. I went with Southeast because I'm same thought process as you, Nick. Miami Heat have obviously been neck and shoulders above, better than the Magic, who are the second best team, and the Magic too. Their roster hasn't been at least well constructed so far this year. The guys haven't taken a jump. And we know the Hornets, they're playing well above what anyone anticipated at this point in the year, but we kind of all still know the Hornets aren't a very good basketball team. The Wizards, 7-17. The Hawks just got done losing, 10 straight games or 6-20. So I think the Southeast for me would be the worst division.
Yeah, Southeast is bad. They have one good team, like you kind of mentioned, Nick. I want Orlando to blow it up. I want them to blow it up last season and not make the moves they made this year. Doesn't really make sense. Hornets, like Kory mentioned, not going to be good. Washington's just kind of hanging around. Atlanta's been one of the bigger disappointments. And then you get to the Southwest. Dallas is a good team. Houston's a good team. We don't really know what's up with San Antonio. And I think Memphis is going to get better as the season progresses, and I don't really know what to expect from New Orleans.
I will say one thing we'll see with Luka Doncic suffering that moderate ankle sprain, which let me tell you, if that's a moderate ankle sprain, I don't even know. That was a nasty one.
Yeah.
But we're going to see what that Mavericks team looks like without Luka Doncic. And I've been kind of saying this all season is I don't really believe in the supporting cast for Luka Doncic or that roster. We're going to see what guys do step up and what guys don't step up. It's going to be a lot for Porzingis to be asked of.
Yeah, they almost beat Miami, I think, in a comeback yesterday. Yeah, and ideally, this is the best time Luka could have got hurt because there is, I think, a little bit of a break with the Christmas games. So they're playing less games over this next week or 2-week stretch that will kind of benefit Dallas a lot.
Definitely.
Now, passing it over to you, Kory, we're going to play Guess That Stat Line.
Yes, Guess That Stat Line. So
do we have buzzers for this game? There's a lot of people right now, and we're in different countries. I don't want to get missed out by a lag and due through the country difference and time zones.
You guys are just going to have to just say it, and the first accent.
I'll go to the tape if I got it.
Yeah, we'll have to go back on the tapes. But
we all get one challenge. One challenge that'll cost you a timeout.
No, we know these only slow the games down.
Good call. Good call.
All right, so we're playing Guess the Stat Line. Basically, for those who may be new to the show, all I'm going to do is I'm going to read a stat line, and the guys are going to then guess what player it is.
You're going to tell us what conference they're in.
I'll tell you the conference first, yes.
And then division, and then don't have tell us team. Division should be enough.
Yeah, I would hope so. If I gotta tell you the team, then what's the point? Okay, so here we go. First up, averages 13.8 points per game, 9.4 assists per game, 4.5 rebounds per game, 1.3 steals on shooting splits of 39, 30, and 83. Who am I?
What conference we got?
Oh yeah, West. West.
Come on, man. This is your game. You told us the rules. You didn't even follow your own rules. All right.
I would like you guys to just. I mean, if you should be able to guess it without the conference first. If you get it right, that should be like a 5-point. Like, you know.
I mean, Kory, that is extremely difficult. I guarantee you, there's players in the NBA who are maybe averaging almost the identical stat lines.
Hey, them just show that you guys are G's. Come on, I'm trying to help you guys out.
Is it Chris Paul?
No.
Can you repeat it for us one more time?
Yes, Jackie can't answer again. That's what everyone else does.
All right.
That's the rule. 13.8
is.
points per game, 9.4 assists per game, 4.5 rebounds per game, 1.3 steals per game on shooting splits of 39, 30, and 83.
Lonzo Ball.
No.
No.
Nick.
Tim Hardaway Jr.?
No.
No.
All right, Pacific Division.
Pacific Division.
Rajon Rondo?
No. He's shooting like 40% from three, by the way.
I thought he had an okay shooting
The
season.
Bogdanovich?
No. All right, Nick.
All right, and you said 13 points a game, 9 assists, 4 rebounds, 39% from the field and 30% from three.
Yes, and 83 from the line with 1.3 steals.
Ricky Rubio?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Nick
He's
Fay
six.
gets the first one on the board. All right, so I'll
Rubio's
say the
sexy.
conference first this time to help you guys out. Eastern Conference.
Easton. Repeat it again for me. Which conference?
Eastern Conference. All right.
Okay,
So
spell it?
The accent. The accent gets me sometimes. I'm not used to
Junior
speaking.
division. All right.
16.4 points per game, 4.6 rebounds per game, 3.3 assists per game on shooting splits of 36, 27, and 77. Who am I?
Ooh, that's
man,
a
that's
yucky.
ugly.
Oh, boy.
This is a tough one. I'm not gonna lie to you guys.
Terry Rozier.
No.
You said 16 points per game, right?
Yeah, I did.
Man.
I guarantee you guys are gonna be shocked to hear who it is.
Is it Reggie Jackson?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That's tough.
All right, Nick, hit him so he can tell us the division.
Duncan Robinson?
No. Nice try. He's shooting better from three though. Central Division. And I'll read the stat line one more time. 16 points per game, 4.6 rebounds per game, 3.3 assists per game on shooting splits of 36, 27, and 77.
Okay, it's probably someone from the Pacers if we know knowing Kory.
And I don't think anyone on the Pacers is playing that bad.
Is it
16
Colin
points
Sexton?
is a lot
Colin
to shoot
Sexton?
that bad.
Colin Sexton?
No. All right, up to the two Knicks.
All right. Oh, man. 16 points per game. Like, who's playing that much and shooting that bad?
Is it Derrick Rose?
No.
Darius Garland?
No. Blake Griffin.
Oh, God. I was
Oh,
thinking Blake
that was my
Griffin.
other guess. No, I'm
Yeah.
on Detroit's roster. I'm on Detroit's roster right now.
You can't
no.
cheat. We're not allowed to Google things.
Isn't what you guys are doing? This isn't your method? How do you get even close to the right answer?
Because we know the NBA, Nick. Come on, this is a general NBA podcast.
I swear, I don't see. I
Y'all
just look
all
at
have
David.
b-ball ref up.
Yeah, no,
I know y'all do.
I'm the only one who does right now because I got it in front of me, but that's like, I'm not in
See,
it.
I'll share screen this whole session.
All right, so that was Blake Griffin. That was a tough one because he's
had a- Are you guys worried, just speaking, I guess, a bit more holistically, are you guys worried about Blake Griffin's health and his long-term sustainable future?
out again with a knee injury.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think there really is much of a future for Blake Griffin in the NBA, if we're being perfectly honest. Like, in terms of, like, more success than he's had, no way. Like, it's all downhill.
Oh, I would think that's fair. His best basketball is behind it. I would agree.
And especially in the role Detroit asked him to play. Like, if he was a third option and didn't have to, like, grind the offense through like he did all last season, you'd feel a little bit better. But what they ask him to do, he can't do any longer.
And I
You
will
see
say,
Portland. Like, if Portland's not going to get Kevin Love, like, poke around the Blake Griffin trade market. See what's there. Like,
Not the worst idea.
that's an interesting one.
Here's something I'll throw at both of you before the next one, Kory. Would you, if you're the Detroit Pistons, do you trade Andre Drummond or do you trade Blake Griffin?
I trade Blake Griffin. I'm not like
I trade anything anybody wants to give me for either of those players.
The thing with Andre Drummond is that you're going to have to pay him this offseason, so I would move him. Exactly. I don't want to max out Andre Drummond.
That's a fair bet. All right, so moving on to another one in the Western Conference. I did 4 from each conference. If you have to go into overtime, let's see what happens. All right, so Western Conference averages 25 points per game, 5.1 rebounds per game, 3.3 assists per game, 1.1 blocks per game on shooting splits of 46, 33, and 74.
Anthony Davis.
No.
Paul George.
Who'd you say?
Paul George.
No.
Donovan Mitchell.
No.
Could you say the number? Oh, you're going to say him again and tell us the division, right?
Yeah. So, wait, what? Wait.
Division, my guy. Division.
Who is it
Division and numbers again. Well, Kory just screwed up the whole show, guys. Guess we got.
Oh man, we're not starting that all over again, are we?
I guess we're gonna complete the game 1-1-0.
Oh my God, Kory.
Well, I'm going to aim to keep this actually in the podcast, so let's discuss something NBA related while we wait for Kory.
Okay, sure, yeah, of course. Yeah, so the Detroit Pistons, man, like, do you guys see them getting back to like their legacy anytime soon? Like in terms of they have a franchise with a winning history and stuff. Like, I think they're kind of screwed for a bit.
I can hear you. I couldn't hear you guys.
Oh, all right. Well, now we resume the game with our co-host, with our host back in here. So
my fault. So who was the last? What was the last gap?
The next thing you need to do is just.
And I didn't hear anything.
They said Nick said Paul George. Jack, who did you say?
Donovan Mitchell.
Donovan
all
Mitchell.
Right, no, all 3 are wrong. Division Northwest.
And stats again, please.
Stats again, please. 25 points per game, 5.1 rebounds per game, 3.3 assists per game, 1.1 blocks on shooting splits of 46, 33, and 74.
It's Andrew Wiggins.
Correct.
Yeah.
Does he have this B-ball reference open right now?
No, man, I put it away, all right? I put it away.
He can't be trusted, Jack.
I mean, Canadians are normally friendly, but
wait, so I'm going to put an asterisk next to this because we don't really know if it's verified, right? Like,
this is asinine. You guys are just throwing up numbers in the air. And the NBA is a place where very many dudes average very similar numbers, all right? This would take all night.
So next up, Eastern Conference averages 14 points per game, 7.1 rebounds per game, 3.0 assists per game on shooting splits of 43, 31, and 72. Who am I?
Thaddeus Young.
No.
Domantas Sabonis?
No. Averages way more rebounds.
I was going to say, yeah.
14, 43, 7 rebounds. This is tough. I'm sorry, I'm really thinking on this one.
I sure would help that b-ball ref now, wouldn't it?
Aaron Gordon.
Yes.
Oh, that is no b-ball ref. I'll share my screen right now.
Wow.
Share the screen, baby. All right, back to the Western Conference. I'm averaging 13.9 points per game, 3.5 rebounds per game, 4.6 assists per game on shooting splits of 36, 37, and 79. Who am I?
Oh, man.
Gilgeous Alexander.
No.
I think you'd have more assists. Jeff Teague?
No.
That's a good guess. Oh,
those are really vague numbers.
It's weird. Anybody who shoots a higher percentage from 3 than their field goal percentage is always concerning. Oh, God. Oh, man, I don't know then this one. Let me...
Gotta blurt it out.
I'm thinking. I'm sorry for the delay. I know this is terrible for the show.
You gotta use brain ball ref.
DeJounte Murray.
I could give you guys all another hint.
DeJounte Murray. No, I'll just wait now. Go for the next.
No.
You just started division.
What? Started?
You just started the division level.
I mean, it probably would help you guys. Northwest.
Okay, all right.
Northwest. So we got Gary Harris?
No.
Oh, okay, good guess. CJ McCollum.
No.
Way more points. I think he's at like 22 or something.
Jeremy
20.
Grant.
No. Mike Connolly.
Oh, Nick.
Oh.
Look at his numbers.
Freaking God.
So I will say this. So we have 3 guys left, and I should have told you guys from the start. Every single player I picked is a starter in the NBA.
All right,
That would have helped a lot.
Okay. Well,
Exactly.
yeah, see, that would have been extremely helpful.
Exactly. So I'm sorry. I probably should have said it from the start. All right. So Eastern Conference, 22.6 points per game, 4.5 rebounds per game, 3.9 assists per game, 1.3 steals per game on shooting splits of 43, 41, and 81. Who am I?
Jaylen Brown.
No.
He's shooting a higher percentage from the field. He's shooting like close to 50%.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Tobias Harris?
No.
That's a good guess.
That is a good guess. His 3-point percentage, though, is a lot lower, I think.
You said 22 a game, right?
Yeah.
See, I might have another guess after this one once we get the division.
I think
Zach LaVine?
Yes, it is. Oh,
Nice. Damn, that's a win. That's a dub for me, right? That's 3-0.
That's-
There's like 2 games
yeah,
left.
that would be a win. Yeah.
That's a wrap. You guys do podcasts together. It's not fair. Like you guys have this weird synergy and history with each other.
Technically, if other Nick was to get one of these right, then the game continues because Nick got. So
Oh
technically,
yeah, you're right.
All right. So next up, Western Conference again, all
Jack,
star.
get this right.
I'll get it right and give my points to Nick Cuvalo.
He averages 8.2 points per game, 3.1 rebounds per game, 1.3 assists per game, 1.2 steals per game on shooting splits of 42, 37, and 78. Who am I?
You said 8.2 points per game?
God,
Yeah.
what are those stats?
Josh
This is
Koji?
fun for me. I'm just, I'm living the life. I'm just, dropping numbers, staring at faces.
Are you even listening to me? Like I made a guess. Did you hear me?
Oh, my fault. Who'd you say, buddy?
Josh Koji, my dude.
Yeah, no, that's wrong.
yeah. That's
Man. Wow.
Hey,
Patrick Patterson.
I'm making the first guesses here.
No,
I feel
okay.
like I deserve.
This
Nick,
is a starter that
This
is
is
not
something
doing,
that-
not racking up numbers.
listen, this
Okay.
is important for you, Nick. You need to get this one because if you don't get it right, then I'm worried. That's all I got.
Well,
That's
that
like a
is
hint.
lot of
That's like a
pressure.
hint even.
That
That's
is
a hint.
more
Even.
pressure than could than
And
is
I tried to
warranted
give. I even
at
gave
this
you a hint
point.
almost.
Really?
Or you just stop helping him.
Did you narrow down? Have we narrowed it down to division yet, or is
No,
this?
you got to make your guess.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna go with Damari Carroll.
No, I don't even think he's played really this year.
Oh, that's bullshit.
So Pacific Division.
The Lakers player. I'm not
Rajon
guessing.
Rondo?
No.
He doesn't start, does he?
Oh,
Does he?
Yeah, like
No.
KCP and Danny Green start those games
Yeah,
in the
you're right,
backcourt.
you're right.
Is it KCP?
No.
It's fucking Patrick Beverly, isn't it?
No, it's Danny Green. You got
Oh
Danny
my God.
his name.
All right, well, now it's officially over.
Yeah, it's officially over. The last guy I had was Bam Adebayo. Was gonna be the last guy.
Say it again. Say the name again.
Adebayo.
Ah, there we go. Second time we got it right.
Yeah, I know. I said Adebayo or Bay. I don't know if I said it first time.
You-
But yeah,
he corrected it last week.
So
I
Nick
respect-
won. You did it. Way to be.
You just gotta work. You just gotta work on Doncic now. Now you just gotta stop calling it Doncic. Then you're cash money.
Wait, it's not Doncic? Oh. that wasn't right.
There is one Nets player, I will not say his name, and I'm going to leave it to Jack to talk about in the buzz, TLC. But,
Timothy Luau Cabarro.
Oh, Timothy Luau Cabarro. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not looking forward to that.
These names.
But since we wrapped up a little bit earlier with Guess the Statline, we can jump into a little bit of rumors that were on the Woj and Low show. Jack actually brought this idea to me, so shout out to him. But Twitter handle Blazer by Sager has kind of a roundup on his Twitter handle, so we'll kind of use some of that. Woj said he expects to see trades happen earlier this year. December 15th when the trade season starts, which is technically today. He expects to see more trades happen before the deadline. In the past, last season we only saw 3 trades between December 15th and January 15th. Do you guys think that's going to be the case?
Sure. I think there's a lot of contenders that are going to go around poking around the bargain bin, so to speak. And I think there's a lot of teams that are looking to get that are going to at least like answer the phone on a lot of their contracts on their rosters. Like for example, your Orlando Magic got a lot of things to consider right now. So do the Pistons. Yeah, me and the Magic, man. But no, and then seriously, like the Lakers and Clippers are going to go looking around, right? There's a couple of teams. The Houston Rockets, are always looking to make a trade at midseason. Even the Spurs, the Spurs are at a crossroads with their roster in terms of what are they going to do with DeRozan and Aldridge. And I think Kevin Love, honestly, we're going to be hearing a call about Kevin Love's future in the next hours. We're talking hours here because this guy's clearly on his way out of Cleveland.
Article going up on OTG in the hours on Kevin Love. Just quick plug.
Hey, make sure to check in that one. Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't think that there's going to be that much movement. And I think the moves that will be made will be a little bit more surprising because all the sort of big guys that are on the market, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, Kevin Love, I don't think that the contenders are going to want to trade for them because you're tying up a lot of future cap space. And 2021 is when there is going to be, superstars available. Giannis is going to be a free agent or he might be re-signing with the Bucks. So I don't think that I think there might be more surprising moves. And like Nick was saying, some moves around the wings. Like we might see one of the million power forwards moved in New York. It depends on who's a buyer and who's a seller. Because Portland Trailblazers, are they really going to want to hamstring themselves going forward with, Rodney Hood now out? Are they really going to push to contend in the Western Conference? I mean, you kind of have to when you have Damian Lillard and, the Denver Nuggets, these sort of teams, obviously Andre Iguodala's out there as well. I'm intrigued to see what actually happens. And the first move is always a good one because it sort of sets the tone. And, there's normally a flurry of that afterwards. And, there should be happening tonight. 40% of the league is now available after those deals were made and ratified by the NBA in the offseason. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm intrigued. Color me intrigued.
I'll keep it short and sweet. Yes, I think trades happen earlier.
Yeah, I think Kory's right in the sense that so many teams are absolutely terrible to start the season and they have no chance and they thought that they might be competitive. Like a team like the Knicks who had the expectation that they would be somewhat competitive, they're complete garbage. So they need to move some of those vets. Even the Hawks, a team that thought maybe they could squeeze in the playoffs. Now with John Collins and that suspension, that pretty much killed their season. So I think there's going to be players available. But to Jack's point, I don't think it's going to be the big name players. It's going to be more so of, the depth pieces or a fourth or fifth starter type guy.
Yeah.
Now also, I think Nick or Jack, you brought up the Knicks having 100 power forwards. Well, one name has been brought up a lot, which says Marcus Morris possibly going to the Clippers. They've talked about a deal like that.
Yeah, I saw that, and I saw what they were willing to give up, and I'm like, is Marcus Morris really going to elevate you that much in terms of giving up I think it was a Mo Harkless and a first?
Yep.
And then obviously there's Montrez, do the Clippers really want to pay him going forward? Is he, really important in the playoffs and in the postseason like a Lou Williams? Those guys could get played off the court a little bit. I don't think so. I'm a fan of Marcus Morris, and he is right now the next best player, and he can produce for you. I just don't think in terms of that first round pick, I think that they should be looking to do something else with it, to bolster it elsewhere, bolster their roster elsewhere.
It's interesting. I think Marcus Morris is an upgrade over Mo Harkless.
But how much is the question that I have for you?
I think he provides more of an offensive spark. I think you trust him more offensively. Mo Harkless may have a decent percentage, but he's a very passive shooter. He doesn't look for his offense, where maybe just the fact that Morris is more aggressive would help them. But I also, if I'm the Clippers, I'm more concerned about having a ball handler. I would want another guard who can facilitate and get other guys involved. We know what we have in the two wings, majorly in the wings themselves. Beverly is good defensively, can give some playmaking. Lou Williams obviously is good for the second unit, but I think them having a ball handling facilitator would do them more justice than adding another wing.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily jump on this move. I don't think it's necessary, and I think Mo Harkless is fine in what they ask him to do, especially defensively. And then you have to worry about Marcus Morris taking some bad shots, I think, and then also he's somewhat streaky. But moving on to a team like Milwaukee, Lowe mentioned that they'll be keeping an eye on guys like Robert Covington and JJ Redick.
Oof. Jack, what do you think about who would you prefer on Milwaukee? JJ Redick, or would you prefer more defense and go with who's the other guy?
Just Robert Covington.
Robert Covington.
I think both would provide tremendous value for the Milwaukee Bucks. I think that it's weird because they could have just kept Malcolm Brogdon. I mean, obviously, revisionist history, is...
Don't tell Bucks fans that.
I mean,
They
yeah,
hate him. They think he's like I don't want to get into it.
no, go. Come on, man. You have a podcast.
Soundbite, please.
For this reason.
I'm just saying, I don't understand why Milwaukee Bucks fans just haven't accepted that Malcolm Brogdon is a really good player. Like, I still have some Buck fans who will tweet at me and be like, well, his shooting release is really slow. Like, bro, get the fuck, I don't care.
It's because they're scared shitless Giannis is going to leave, man. That's why.
No.
Like, that might have been the move. That might be the move that makes him leave.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, we've seen now in a larger role what Malcolm Brogdon does. Like, you can't tell me that if you could have either Eric Bledsoe, Chris Middleton, and Antetokounmpo, you over Brogdon, Middleton, and Antetokounmpo, you take that. I think you rather have the point guard who can shoot, facilitate, and play defense compared to Eric Bledsoe, who's very good at driving and getting to the bucket and playing defense. I think Brogdon's better than Bledsoe. Simple as that.
Yeah, Brogdon's definitely a better complementary player, too, in terms of already having Giannis there. Like, Bledsoe not being able to shoot threes just destroys their offense and makes them unplayable at times.
Yeah.
In that sense, JJ Redick or Robert Covington, I think it depends on what you value. I'm going to probably sit on the fence a little bit here. I would go with JJ Redick because I think the cap hit is a little bit smaller, and I think for Milwaukee ownership, they've shown already an inkling that they don't want to go above into the luxury tax, even though being a championship contender, that is what you are supposed to do. Though Robert Covington right now is going to provide a better long-term future. He's younger. He can play both sides of the ball. I think he's a lot streakier than JJ Redick. And I think in terms of if you have Kyle Korver and JJ Redick, you have two of the best shooters maybe in the history of the game. They're certainly up there. They're not, Ray Allen and Stephen Curry, but they're two of the most consistent long-term guys there. And with the Milwaukee Bucks and how they predicate in their offensive system and really emphasizing the three ball, JJ Redick would be such a seamless fit.
Yeah, I mean, like, for Milwaukee to make that trade, I just don't know what these teams are asking. I think Robert Covington looks great on the majority of teams in the league, but like, good luck getting him from Minnesota's cold dead hands. You know what I'm saying? Like, he is an extremely valuable piece of that team. I think, like, short of anything of a D'Lo package from the Warriors, why are you going to move Robert Covington? Like, this guy's value is only going to increase with time. They're guys that I would move to, but like the asking price is just too much. Like, I think the Bucks are going to get priced out specifically in terms of what they have to offer. I would love to see those guys moved, but I've been seeing a lot of stuff on Twitter about the Pelicans wanting to hold on to Redick because they see him as a good mentor for the young guys. And so it's like, again, it's just all about that asking price. What are these guys really worth? Is it really worth mortgaging the future for what you've got on the roster right now?
And that just sounds like the Pelicans trying to create some leverage. Obviously, they're going to look to move, I think, Redick at some point because their season's not going to be successful. And I think it's a great point about the contract. I think you want to bring in Redick, and then also it's easier to make a move with New Orleans because they're looking to get guys out, where in the Minnesota side is like they trade Covington. They're sending a message to Karl-Anthony Towns like, hey, we're not going to be competitive this year and not make the playoffs. Then you have to worry about Cat requesting that trade, which Kory and I have talked about in a previous show.
And he has mentioned before, Anthony Towns, that how much he loves Robert Covington and how much he makes their defensive identity just work. And he makes things easier for Cat because if you have one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, yes, Rocco has his weaknesses as a defender, but it allows Karl-Anthony Towns to become a better defender because it forces him to do less. And we saw that at the early points of the season. So I agree, Nick. I think JJ Redick is more likely, but, any team like Nick Cuvalo was saying, there's too many Nicks on this podcast.
There's too many Nicks on the podcast network.
Too many Nicks in your life, Jack.
I mean, that is a very fair point, Kory. There's too many Kory Waldrons in my life as well, but we'll leave that for another day. I don't mean to...
Below the belt.
Up next, though, Lowe mentioned as two guys that could swing the trade market. It'd be Drew Holiday or Kyle Lowry. Do you think either of these two will be moved?
Yeah, so the Raptors would be doing Kyle Lowry dirty if they moved him after that 1-year extension. So that's an interesting but rough path. Drew Holiday, I can just see it makes a lot more natural sense in terms of like the direction the franchise is going. The Pelicans, because Drew Holiday is, that leftover tandem from him and AD, those sort of days. So it wouldn't be surprising to me if they moved from him for a really great deal.
I would want. I mean, I think I'm a little bit irrationally high on players that I've seen in person, and I've seen. I mean, I've seen Kyle Lowry in person as well, but I've seen Drew Holiday in person with you, Nick Faye, and it was a masterful experience to see him play defense and be able to switch. I think he would provide an immense value to so many teams and would upgrade in so many different ways on both sides of the ball. Kyle Lowry is a role player right now, and I think Drew Holiday still has a little bit left, despite having a lesser season of sorts. I don't think if I'm the New Orleans Pelicans, I would get rid of him until I see how he fits alongside Zion, because I get that the youth route, the tanking route is all well and good, but you also need to have capable of vets around you to be able to provide leadership, provide experience, provide wisdom, and provide just knowledge on how to play and win in today's NBA. So if I was in New Orleans Pelicans, I would certainly keep Drew Holiday. Kyle Lowry, maybe he could add some value to a team like the Miami Heat or whatever. But like Nick Cuvalo was saying, it would be a dirty move, but we know Masai Ujiri isn't afraid of making those dirty moves.
All right, so I don't see Kyle Lowry being dealt. If the Raptors weren't off to such a good start, I think maybe this would be different. But the fact of the matter is, the Raptors are 17-8, and at this point in time, like, why mess with the roster? You might just let it roll out. And Siakam's getting better. I mean, I guess you could obviously sell off Lowry, and that would be a dirty move. I think we all can agree on that. I think Drew Holiday just makes more sense, and I think he's been through, quote-unquote, enough. Obviously, he's been through the thickest of things in New Orleans, through last year's drama, tried it this year. They're just absolute dog shit, for lack of a better word. 6-21. I've watched them probably the second most of any team in the NBA, and they're in every game, or at least the games I watch, and they end up losing. So I think Drew Holiday, it just makes sense. If not, like, I wouldn't be surprised if behind closed doors he's already talked to David Griffin and they have maybe even an agreement of like, hey, if things aren't working out, like, I would like to play meaningful basketball in my career again. And I think there's plenty of teams that could use him. I like Orlando comes to mind. I think if Miami, I don't think they would if they want Oladipo or Antetokounmpo in the future, but I think Miami could be a team that makes sense. Philly, if they want to try and get another guard.
Bring him back to Philly.
Yeah, and back to Philly would be a nice, fun storyline. I think even if, like, Minnesota wanted to try and flip something so they could bring in a guard to play with Wiggins and Towns. But there's going to be, I think, a really big market for Drew Holiday if he was to become available. I think even more so than Kyle Lowry.
I mean, and you can see how Drew Holiday would fit in a lot of teams as just that complimentary kind of third star possibly, but also, like, you know, you guys all mentioned, Toronto doesn't really make sense to blow up what's going on there because they're playing so well. And like I mentioned earlier, they have a chance in the Eastern Conference playoffs with that experience. I'd look at them as more as buyers at the deadline than sellers. But in terms of other news, there was nothing too crazy. You know, Golden State will probably wait on moving D'Angelo Russell until the offseason where they'll look to pair their lottery pick with D'Lo. Who do you think Golden State will be targeting this offseason? Obviously, that's super.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, that's a powerful pick. Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna. I don't think the Bucks will trade him.
I don't think they will either. But if somehow the Bucks flame out in the playoffs, then there is a possibility that the Giannis forces himself out. I'm not saying that it is going to happen. I'm just saying that there is a chance of it. I'm speculating for the sake of speculating. But, and I advocated for this on last week's JBT in the sense that I think that Golden State should make that move because I think that they could become an instant contender again if they were to trade the first rounder and or D'Lo in some sort of package to get an all-star. Because I think that, you know, I think that they could be back up there with the Lakers, with the Clippers, and be quite easily in championship contention within, you know, just a year. It's almost like a year off. Get Stephen Curry a little bit of rest, get Clay a little bit of rest. Draymond can have a few games off here and there. But it's about what is he going to get in return. I don't think, from what I've heard from some of our draft guys at OGBasketball.com, that this draft is as solid as years past. So I think that it makes sense to trade that pick as well at the same time. You know, why would you get LaMelo Ball or whoever it might be to pair alongside? I don't think that adds value when you are a championship team, when you have Stephen Curry on your roster, no matter what, one of the best players that we have seen in recent decades.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think they should definitely make the move, especially having Clay, Curry, and Dre still on contract. I just don't think they'll be able to make a move for Giannis. If you said Karl-Anthony Towns, I'd maybe listen because he'd be more likely to be available, but I'm not sure who's going to be out there for them to make a move. I think they'll have enough for an all-star. It's just depending on the grade of the all-star.
Yeah, that's like do they want the All-Star, or could they invite more teams into the trade to see if they could get like 2 high-quality wing guys or something, right? Because
That
then
makes more sense.
Yeah,
But then it's
Roseboro,
like your value is really high if you're trading, let's just hypothetically say it's a top 3 pick in D'Angelo Russell for like depth pieces. You'd probably be better off making 2 separate trades in that instance.
Yeah.
right.
But
Because I don't think they need more stars, right? Like I don't think the Golden State dynasty, for them to get back on the right path, they don't really necessarily need another guy with the ball in his hands a lot, right? So they just need players who can like space the floor. Like 3-and-D guys, I think really could carry that roster quite a bit.
I don't want to be a dick, but we could even are we sure Draymond Green's best days of basketball aren't behind him?
I was thinking the same thing, to be honest.
Really?
I think that
would be my question. Because Draymond Green's shooting numbers once again have dipped. So, is this the new norm, or is this just because the team isn't good? Would be the worrisome fact. And then I would think that would be the counter argument to go out and get another All-Star because Draymond Green isn't the same guy.
Right. I just with Curry and Thompson on the same roster, with both them healthy, that's enough scoring. Draymond, to me, his value was never in his scoring. Even his shooting could go down to 0-0-0 in terms of his splits, and that's not really what Draymond is about for me as a player. Nor is it that wasn't really his role when Golden State was rings all the time, right? He had that one 32-point triple-double Game 7 in that series where he biffed and got suspended for Game 5. He can have his okay offensive night, but if Golden State just needs 2 more dudes who can average 15 points a game on 40% from 3, play some great D, that I think that'd be well worth the 3rd overall pick in D'Angelo Russell. But that's just me.
Yeah, it's something that's definitely going to play out this year. Obviously, how the rest of the roster is kind of constructed in Golden State with the rest of the young guys. Does anybody kind of pop off and, hey, this is somebody we're going to keep moving forward? But I think we talked enough rumors. We're going to be talking about it for pretty much the next 2 months. Let's get to games of the week. Starting on Monday night, what should we be watching?
Monday night. I always get confused with the time
Tomorrow.
Time zone tomorrow. Okay, that's a
The
fair
next
call.
slate of games. Yeah.
Next slate of games. All right. Tomorrow I'm gonna go with. I like Dallas at the Dallas at Milwaukee without Doncic isn't that good. Portland at Phoenix.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Heat. I'm gonna go Heat Grizzlies. Mavericks Bucks is it's a blow.
Okay. I'll go Suns Trailblazers just to mix it up a little bit. Those are teams that are both fringe playoff contenders, so this will be an important one for either team.
I'll go Spurs Rockets. Last time these two played, we had the no basket from James Harden.
So controversial.
Tuesday, everyone pick wisely for Tuesday's slate of games. Everybody pick wisely. All right.
Well, you pick first. All right. Let's
Pacers. Okay. Lakers Pacers.
Yeah. Okay. As if I didn't see that coming from a mile away.
I mean, it sounds like the best game though. I'm not even...
It is the best game. It is the best game, but it's the Brooklyn Nets versus the New Orleans Pelicans is the best game actually as well.
No, I'll also go Lakers Pacers. If you're not watching that game on Tuesday night, you've got to be a Nets fan because otherwise, what's the deal?
I mean,
watch an hour
Knicks doesn't get your eye.
Yeah.
Someone's leaving with 7 wins.
True, that's true. Lakers Pacers, obviously, that should be a good game. I'll be intrigued to see how Indiana matches up against a team like LA.
Yeah.
Spoiler, they won't.
Oh,
no, dude, they're gonna get steamrolled, man. This Lakers team is something else. Something else.
My, oh my.
They are a good team, I'm not gonna lie. So.
We'll be watching Twitter that night. But Wednesday night, what are we rolling with?
Miami at Philadelphia.
Oh, good one. Jay Rich tore up the Heat last time you saw them. My goodness.
Yeah, I think we'll see Jimmy Butler come back with the performance. Not for the ages, but for at least a couple of days on Twitter. We're talking about it.
Yeah, I like Celtics Mavs.
Celtics Mavs. I'm going Heat Sixers as well. The Doncic injury is just unfortunate. I think Mavericks Celtics would have been mine.
Yeah, same thing here. I'm going to go with Heat Sixers. I think that should be fun. Obviously, former teammates facing each other. But what are we rolling with Thursday night? This is an easy one Thursday.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, it's an easy one. It's the Nets at San Antonio.
It's the Nets versus the Spurs at 8:30. Yeah. 30 minutes before.
I'm going Lakers Bucks.
Yeah, there you go.
By the way, best East team versus best West team. Both 24-3 at this point in time. I think it's what everyone's kind of been waiting for to try and see where the Bucks match up with the Lakers.
What's a more fun matchup, Giannis versus LeBron or Giannis versus AD?
Giannis versus LeBron.
Yeah.
Because
you think so?
I think because of the we speak about narrative when it comes to podcasts and basketball in general. This is like a moment. We could have moments throughout this game, like we saw when Dallas versed the Lakers early in the season, and Luka hit the three over LeBron James, and then LeBron was battling him in overtime in the previous matchup. We could have like a moment where Giannis is like, "Look, man, this is my league now. You're a decade older than me. I'm taking over. It's my time." And it's going to be a fascinating matchup, and it could establish who will be the championship favorites.
Oh, really? See, okay. Lakers Bucks is my pick, but maybe for a different reason. I think maybe in this game, people are going to see that AD is closer to Giannis than Giannis is to LeBron in terms of like overall stature and celebrity and star power in the NBA. Like I think AD is really going to make his case here for like not only a top 5 player, but he's really close to Giannis in terms of overall, I guess rating would be the word to describe it.
All right, I like that.
That was the spiciest take we heard all day. How would you rank all three currently right now in terms of where they're at in the NBA positionally? Non-positionally, just in general in the NBA. Obviously, Kory and Jack are going to have their top 50 list later in the year, but right now, where would they be in the top 10?
Yeah, Giannis is probably number 1. If I'm being totally honest with where LeBron is, as a single entity player-wise with his age factored in, like I think Giannis is probably 1, but then you'd have LBJ at 2 and AD at 3 for me, like this year from what I'm seeing. I wouldn't take Harden over either of them because of what they've been providing on defense and what LeBron's been providing in terms of his assists per game. Like his orchestration has been masterful, and then him and AD like combined defensive. I think James Harden falls closer to 5, than I do in the top. Like I think the 3 best players in the NBA are going to be on the court in that game.
I'm saving mine for my top 50.
All right.
Well, all 3 of those guys in the top 5. I'll ask you that as a little sneak peek.
They are.
Okay. And I think it's also more interesting than normal because Kevin Durant and Steph Curry aren't healthy this season, and they'd be 2 guys who would definitely be in the top 5. So it makes the conversation very interesting. But we also have a great doubleheader on Thursday night. Not only is it LA versus Bucks is the 8 p.m. game, but at 10:30 you have Rockets versus Clippers.
Yeah, that was one of the games of the season just a few weeks ago.
It literally might be the best night of basketball in terms of just like the doubleheader matchup that we've had this season so far.
And I'm
no doubt.
Pew, 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 pew.
I don't want to hear that ever again. Get that. That was fun.
My finger blast. I'm shooting. Come on now. I'm like Joakim Noah.
Friday, what do we got?
Friday, this is like a weaker slate. I actually went with Timberwolves Nuggets. I think Karl-Anthony Towns and Nikola Jokic has been a pretty entertaining center matchup so far this year in a couple of previous matchups.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Phoenix at OKC. I think just low key that could be like a matchup for like an 8th seed.
All right. Well, you guys have definitely chosen the Nets and Pacers for your own home team. So Raptors Wizards on Friday night is going to be how I'm spending it.
Hey,
it's not even fun to watch a blowout. Come on.
I want to see Bradley Beal put up like 40, 50, and then see a free Beal sign in the audience. That's really what I'm looking for.
I think T-Wolves and Nuggets should be pretty fun. I think Minnesota's dealing with some games upcoming that they need to win if they want to stay in that postseason picture. But on to Saturday, what do we got?
Atlanta, Brooklyn.
I'll say Rockets, Suns, but this is a pretty slate of games. Nothing really pops off. To me, good teams playing against shitty teams.
Yeah, Blazer T-Wolves isn't that terrible.
Yeah,
Jazz Hornets could be not eye-bleedingly bad. Maybe I'd give the Jazz Hornets game some consideration.
And that says a lot about the Jazz.
Yeah.
Especially where we had them going into the season.
Yeah.
All right, Sunday of next week, what do we got?
Hot Sunday. Spicy Sunday.
It's a good Sunday.
It's a good I know where I'm going to be on the 22nd because I'll probably be hungover because it's Saturday before Christmas. That goes. So watching basketball, drinking Gatorade. I'll say Pacers Bucks will be what I obviously want to watch the most. But actually, yeah. No, it's not right. Now I'll say Nuggets Lakers is the game of the week, for game of the night. But I want to say Pacers Bucks.
I think Pacers Bucks will be sneaky good. because of obviously the whole narratives that we've spoken about with Brogdon and everything. And I think the Pacers are playing some pretty awesome basketball, and I think that it could be a bit of a grind between those teams. Yeah, I like Denver, Los Angeles. I think Dallas, Toronto could be a fun matchup as well. Obviously, not necessarily sure if Luka might be back by then. I don't think he will be, but they have said it is a mild ankle sprain, so maybe we do see him back at that stage. If he is back, that'll be a really fun matchup.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Nuggets Lakers here. I think it's gonna be fun to see AD absolutely clown Jokic again. That was not a good matchup last time, and it's I think the Nuggets have a lot in store for that game. If they could beat the Lakers, I wouldn't be the most surprised person in the world, but I think that one they're gonna get handled comfortably.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll with Pacers Bucks. Like the Nuggets have not been overly impressive this year. That'd be a game if they won. I'd maybe go back into buying some of their stock right now. I'd probably be selling a little bit because I don't think they're gonna end up being one of the best teams in the Western Conference when the playoffs come.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Anything else we want to throw in there before we get out of here?
I think we had a lot. This is one of our deeper podcasts. I like this.
I wasn't
deep
too
with the
mean to
roster, deep with the topics.
I wasn't too mean to Kory, was I?
I don't even hear you.
That was a perfect response. I'll give you that.
Yeah. I respect it. Yeah, I'm gonna just go home and cry and have some ice cream.
All right, guys. Tell everyone where they can find you.
All right, you can find me at Nick Cubs on Twitter. You'll see me posting OTG every once in a while, covering the Raptors and Lakers. And you can check me out also on Instagram. And send me a message whenever you feel like it discussing the NBA.
Oh, I was about to say, I might slide in, Nick. You know, it's festive season. We need to cuddle up.
Feeling lonely? Yeah. The alcoholic eggnog is talking to you. Yeah.
It gets cold up in Toronto. It's nice and warm down here. Maybe make the trip. At the J-Man JBT, I do podcasts, I do articles, I talk about dumb shit.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at KWalHoops, KWAL Hoops. You can also find me on Hinge, Bumble,
Grindr, all that good stuff.
Shit.
LinkedIn.
That wraps it up before we get kicked off the air. You can find the show on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, OTGBasketball.com, and YouTube.
Peace out, knuckleheads.